As promised, this is about facilitating engaging discussions. So, yeah, let's keep this moving. All right. Okay. Let me just pull out my slides for you. All right. So we are heading on to the last session for this morning, and we will be looking into facilitating engaging lessons or facilitating engaging discussions, if you would like. So my name is Romel, and thank you for tuning in. And yeah, let's keep this going. Right. Last sessions. Whoo. So before we move forward with this presentation, I want you to reflect a little bit. All right. Think about some of your recent lessons in the classroom. Right. If you are in a non-teaching position, just try to imagine. All right. If you are in a teaching position, I want you to think about some of your recent lessons. All right. Hmm. Ask yourself, what percentage of time was my lesson is direct teacher delivery. So when you say direct teacher delivery, you stand and you talk and you deliver the topic, right? So what percentage, let's say in one school year, out of 100%, what percentage of time was direct teacher delivery, right? Or some, think about a specific lesson, all right? Let's say you're discussing this topic, and in that topic, what is the percentage of direct teacher delivery? All right. The second question I want you to reflect, what percentage of time were students actively involved in creating their own learning and understanding of the content? Hmm, make sense? So, what percentage? Right? I would love to know your responses. Yeah. If you don't want to share your answer, that's all right. Okay. Next thing is this one. What percentage of time were students working collaboratively? Hmm, let's say, oh, 20%, 30%. So on the scale of 1 to 5, my next question is this. On the scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest, how concerned are you about covering the content? All right. How concerned are you about covering the content? Let's say, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. You can type in your answers if you want. So, what is the level of um, concern on the scale of 1 to 5? What do you have in there? All right, let's keep the ball rolling. These questions are all about engagement, right? So for this session, the objectives will be focusing on student engagement and what does it look and feel like in the classroom. We will also try to grasp the categories of student engagement strategies. Sorry, I have to respond. Okay, there you are. So we will also look into incorporating different categories of student engagement strategies in the classroom. This coincides with the classroom management discussion we have. We were talking about they should be engaged, they should be, um, with involved with the teaching and learning process. All right, let's keep going. All right. So when we talk about student engagement, we look into their independence and motivation to learn. I think a while ago, there was this one valid question someone asked about um, providing them motivation. So that's a good one. All right. So independence when it comes to motivation to learn. So when we say independence, this is not the absolute independence that do whatever you want. Okay. It's not like that actually. But it's more on you can do this, but I'm still supervising, but you are allowed to explore other areas that you want to work on. All right. Persistence to work through challenges. They are engaged in constructing their own understanding of knowledge by thinking deeply and making connections to prior information. We call that schema and real world applications. So sounds superficial, but this is where the higher order thinking skills would come in, or critical thinking skills, if you like. All right. So how would they put learning into action? Yeah. So in a research from the National Training Laboratories, look at this, guys. The average student retention rates. This is actually quite interesting. Look. Do you know that the retention rate for a lecture is less than 10%? Oh my God. Who? All right. Now, when we talk about reading, 10%, but look at the one that's that has the highest level of student retention rates. 90% teaching others. Oh, that's quite a big number, right? 75% when they practice what they do. Yeah, I think a lot of us are doing this nowadays, which is good, discussion. And when we say discussion, this is different from lecture because a discussion is wherein students are allowed to contribute ideas and then exchange ideas and then come up with with a concept or a particular view on a topic, right? Audiovisual, 20%. We're talking about here learners in general. When we say general type of learners, when it comes to age 15 and above. All right. So this may not be 100% accurate for young learners. So I don't have data on that. Sorry for that. But what I'm trying to say here is that when you look into learning pyramid, you will see different levels and you will see different areas that you can use in terms of the classroom practice. So I think it's quite self-explanatory that if you're dealing with younger learners, audiovisual would appeal more to them, or probably reading. If the reading text is interesting and well designed, if the reading activity is well designed, or the audiovisual activity or demonstration even would get a higher percentage, right? All right. So this is a fact. Students that are fully engaged are the ones who ask and answer questions in class. They take part in extracurricular activities. They socialize. They try to ask more relevant questions. They are eager to learn more. And eventually, they become valuable members of our society. Right? I mean, I'm just speaking in general. I mean, doesn't apply to all. But as studies shows, the more students are engaged, the more that they ask relevant questions, not stupid questions, relevant questions. They are engaged in the class, and when they socialize, not just during breaks, but as well as during the facilitation of learning, then they learn more. Interesting. Hmm. I want you to reflect and ask yourselves, way back when you were students, let's say when you were high school students, are you really that engaged? Think about that. All right. Because the funny thing is, what I've got this quote from is the valuable members of the society, because I'm sure all of you here are valuable members of the society. But I want you to look at this one. I want you to reflect on you as a student. When you were studying, would you consider yourself as a fully engaged student, that you ask questions, you consistently join extracurricular activities, and you balance social life and study life? Were you really that engaged? So you can keep the answers to yourselves, and maybe later on as we move forward, you can see, that's why, maybe not, All right. So what I'm trying to say is, when we look into student engagement, there must be less focus on teaching the content. We're not disregarding the content. What we're saying is that there's less focus on the content, but more focus on what they will be doing to learn and understand the content. So it's more on the process of learning rather than acquiring the theory. All right. So what are the activities that they can do or that they should do to learn and understand the content? They That's where differentiated instruction comes in, active learning comes in, and the other approaches that you may want to explore teaching the subject of your expertise. All right. In a study by Shelshty, he provided 5 levels of student engagement. Everybody, look at this, and I want you to recall or think about your students at the moment, right? Where do you think they generally uh, place? Take a look at this one. So the highest part is the green one, the engagement part. So when we say they are engaged, they are self-directed, they are persistent, they are playful, but at the same time they have the understanding of the content and unprompted transfer of understanding, meaning you ask them, they know the answer. There's still some mistakes, that's okay. Then they perform the task, they understood the assignment, and they can be independent. So that is like the engagement level. So there's also room for mistakes, even if the student is having mistakes or what, it doesn't mean that the student is not engaged, of course. So as long as the student is on the verge of being self-directed, trying to play. When we say playfulness with the content, it means that the student is participating in the activities relative to the content, trying his or her best. The next one, below the engagement level, the color blue, you can see the strategic compliance. So strategic compliance means that they're just exerting effort. There's some creativity, they're trying, but they are more focused on task completion rather than excelling it. Like, oh, just to get in, just to submit something. Strategic compliance. Yeah. The next one, the yellow one, we're going from top to bottom. The ritual compliance, from the word ritualistic, they just do it with minimal effort to mitigate consequences. They don't want to fail. I will submit without any effort. Strategic compliance, I don't want to fail. I will submit. I will exert little effort, but that's it. You see the difference? Make sense? Yeah. The next one is the rhetoricism. All right. So these people or these students has no productivity, little to no effort. They don't ask questions. They don't have interest in the content, and they are quite unwilling to collaborate. They might collaborate occasionally, but not most of the time, right? So this is quite challenging for teachers, especially if you have a lot of students on this rhetoricism level, right? And then the next one is zero demonstration of learning, which is the rebellion part, when they are not fully involved in any types of learning. All right, these are the problem students, so these students need intervention, help from the guidance office or from their parents, because it has defiance already, that they tend to rebel, from the word rebel. Okay, now let's have a look at student engagement relationships, how engagement work inside the classroom. So as you can see, the common element in this Venn diagram would be the meaningful engagement. So this is tapped with the content, expertise, the teacher role, the student role, the relationship between the two, as well as the relevance of the content, relevance of the activities, and all of these elements rolled into one. So that's according to Perkins in 2013. So when you think about your class, when you think about your students, I want you to think about these elements. Take a look at this one. When it comes to content, of course, that's given. You have the content. But what about relationship? What type of working relationship do you have inside the classroom? All right, like when your students talk to you in the classroom, when it comes to activities, what or how the student approaches you, how majority of the students would talk to you. Reflect on that, think about that. All right, expertise, not just for the teacher expertise, as well as even students would also showcase some level of expertise once they get familiar with the topic. But as a teacher, how expert are you on the subject matter? Think about that. Are you a PE teacher teaching maths? Are you an English teacher teaching maths? So that could be a challenge, because students, they can smell fear. They can smell something that, oh, my teacher is not prepared, oh, my teacher is scared, they can smell those things. So be ready. We cannot be one page ahead, you know especially the type of students that we have right now, especially with the presence of Chat GPT. So expertise is essential. So brush up your skills, read more, involve yourselves more in professional development. Relevance, as I've mentioned this a while ago, when we talk about relevance, what issues are appealing to the students? All right. So, for example, you are teaching creative writing. All right. Why would you use Edgar Allan Poe if you can use Taylor Swift? Do you get what I mean? How is it relevant? Okay. I'm not saying do not teach the classics, but what I'm saying is you can use the contemporary ones to lead, as a springboard to your main topic. So relevance is a key also. They will not participate if they don't feel they are involved. Okay, so have a reflection on that. Right. Now the next question is, okay, Romel, I know that those theories about engagement, the elements, sure. Now the next question is the $1 million question: how do we promote student engagement? So as school leaders, looking into the context of this training, because this is your training as school managers or school leaders, ask yourself now, how do I help teachers, or me being a teacher, to promote student engagement? All right. So first thing that you have to explore would be your questioning techniques. Yep, right. Questioning, asking the right questions. Guys, come on, give me some answers here. How many questions do you think you ask each day in class? You, yeah. How many questions do you think you ask each day in class? Yep. 100 questions each day in class? Come on. Tell me. How many questions do you ask? Yeah, let me just look into the responses. 5 in a day, in a, oh, JV Vargas, unlimited for more interactions. That's so funny. Numerous. Yeah, how many? Give me a number. Yeah, give me a number. Yeah, figure. 10. All right. There's no wrong answer. Cheryl Bugayong, 5 to 10, depending on the topic. Like, all right, in general. Thank you for the responses. A lot. Only questions. So funny. You guys are so funny. Oh my God. Tuazon. 5 questions. Tanong ko, sagot ko. Sagot ko. So you're the one asking and you're the one answering. That is so funny. Yeah, right? Jamie, call all the students. Oh my God, you guys are so funny. I could imagine you in the classroom. All right. Livey, I know it depends on the situation, but on average, in general, how many questions? All right. Okay. Thank you for your hilarious, I would say, hilarious response. 30 questions. Woo, massive, massive. All right. Yes. Yeah. And we'll get into that. Some of you mentioned that because sometimes they cannot answer the questions. So at the end, you ended up answering the questions. All right. So yeah, makes sense. And sometimes it depends on the topic, it depends on the difficulty of the topics. I know. All right. But typically, how much questions do you ask? It's important to know because according to the study, approximately 15% of classroom time is devoted to those 350 questions asked per day. I mean, in all of the classes. Let's say you are handling 6 classes or 7 classes. So, according to this 2009 study, I haven't seen a more recent one. Um, 350 questions per day if you are a full-time teacher in elementary or in high school. And these questions involve how are you today? Are you okay? All type of questions. So 350 on average. So it means 15% of classroom time is just used to answer questions. All right. However, here's the catch. Few of them are planned questions. So oftentimes teachers ask low-level, mundane questions. This is not according to me, guys, okay? According to Spend Love. In fact, upon analysis, only 20% of the questions actually require any thinking from learners, okay? I'm not really bothered about this because sometimes we ask questions just to check on how are they feeling, and I think it's also valid to know what they feel towards the situation or the environment to establish rapport as well as to establish openness. So asking questions is okay, but what we're trying to say here, I think, when we talk about engagement, when we look into engagement in terms of teaching and learning process, we look into asking valid questions, questions that would spark discussions, questions that will lead into effective teaching and learning process. All right. So this is an interesting data. All right. So I'm glad none of you said 350. So 30, 40, some of you said 50, some of you said 10. You're good. You're good. Okay. Right. So why learners avoid asking questions before we go into the answering of questions, all right? We always say that any questions, I had this experience with you yesterday. I had 300 participants yesterday and only 2 or 3 people ask questions. So forgive me for that. Maybe I also have a lapse on that. So why learners avoid asking questions? I was reflecting on this yesterday as well. Probably there was a lack of opportunity. They feel that, oh, we don't have much time. I'm not going to be heard, or this is not the right time for me to ask questions. So, lack of opportunity, lack of interest, not worth answering. Nah, this is not interesting for me. Fear of failure, we've mentioned this yesterday also, and no, not yesterday, this morning when we were talking about classroom management. They don't want to ask because they feel that, oh, people will laugh at us. They don't have enough time to think. This is not a law school. You do not call students by name and then think about the question. You dive into the question, deliver the question, Give them few seconds to think, call on some students. All right? So give them time to think. They don't know how to ask questions. It might look funny, but they don't know how to ask questions. Yeah. Shy to ask questions. Somebody commented, yes, they are shy because of the following reasons. They might be afraid of failure, or they don't have interest. Another thing is, guys, be careful with this one. The teacher only asks the same students, those performing students. So try to encourage everybody to ask questions. Another thing, I experienced this when I was studying in the Philippines. Teacher asked too many questions at once. Come on, give them time to breathe. All right. So when you ask a question, a follow-up question, stop. Make sense? Don't say, this is a question, why? And so, and then, da 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 da. Da. No, do not do that. All right. So don't ask too many questions. The teacher is looking for one specific answer. Unless this is a factual question. If it's a factual question, it's fine. But if it's a question that requires interpretation, a question that requires critical thinking, then the teacher should show some level of openness when it comes to asking or encouraging students to ask questions. All right? And then teacher answers the questions themselves. This is so funny. As much as possible, let's try not to answer the questions by ourselves. Provide them with STEM sentences. All right. Let's have a look at this one later on. All right. Provide them with STEM sentences, provide them with keywords, or you know what? One of the effective strategies I do with international students, because I'm teaching international students here in Australia, I try to give them a cue by asking the question and say that, do you think that it's necessary for students to learn English? Why so? And then they will say that, teacher, it's necessary because. And then if they can't answer, and I say, what about you? In your experience, try to make it experiential instead of just asking a vague generic question. Like, oh, in your observation, do you think students are like that or like this? So try to use those helpful phrases. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, then find another way again. So in theory, the purpose of questioning are as follows. So we ask students because primarily you want to check their prior knowledge, stimulate recall, to keep them more involved, to promote reasoning, to think about the concepts, to enable them to hear different explanations of the material and by their peers. And this would encourage interaction among the class. Another is to pace lessons and moderate student behavior and to evaluate student learning. Although it's not absolute, there are many ways to evaluate learning, but questioning can be one of the considerations. So now, what is an effective question? What are the elements of effective questioning? We were saying here that, oh, I want my class to be engaged. So now I already know how to engage them. I need to ask questions. I need to give them the reasons why they should ask questions and to understand the purpose of questioning. So the question now here is, now what are the elements of effective questioning? Let's see. The first element should be the clear purpose. So when you're writing your lesson plan, when you're preparing your lesson log or whatever, you need to have a clear purpose. Why am I asking this question? What am I trying to teach? And what do I expect students to learn? So these are the questions that you can ask yourself when you are creating or drafting your questions, okay? Um, in one of the classes that I have seen in in the Philippines, they tend to have same set of questions, same set of, how will I say that, guide questions. So I would suggest that, yeah, that's good. You have guide questions because that the guide questions are relative to the content. Now, if you want it to be more engaging, I would suggest try to revise the guide questions. Try to, how will I say that, modify the guide questions. and look into the type of learners that you have. Try to modify it in a way that they would understand it. Because, for example, not all guide questions would fit into the same set of students. For example, you're teaching lower level students, or you are teaching students with less exposure to the topic. That could also make a difference, right? So think about that. Another element that you can look at to make your questions more effective, linked to the learning outcomes and success criteria. Look at your rubric. Look at the learning outcomes for that particular topic. And then from there, you can frame your questions. So when you think about your questions, make it more inclusive by involving all students. Encourage them to think for themselves and become critical thinkers. So this is one of the challenges, because sometimes, we are running out of time. So let's say you have 45 students, or more than that, maybe 50 students. And then how could you do this? In real life, in the real situation, this could be challenging, but at least try your best to give them time to think. So put on the greatest question that you will ask for the class for that day. And then from that time, give them time to think. Because when they think, it deepens their understanding. When they are given the time to think, or when they are given the chance to even paraphrase the question, it actually stimulates their mind. Okay, I can do this. Sometimes when students, what I also do this, when students are having a hard time understanding the question or finding the answer to the question, they understand the question but they cannot find answer to the question. What I ask them to do is to paraphrase the question. So I'm going to call, student A, you understand the question? Of course, the student would say, yeah, I understood the question. All right. Now I need your help over here. Can you please paraphrase the question for me? Can you do that for me? So the student would paraphrase the question. Then from there, I'm going to ask the same student, now, what is your understanding on the question? Can you try to give me an answer to that? And the student would try to give answer. So it has a 90% success rate. So I've done that. Sometimes not, but most of the time it does. So what I'm trying to say is they need to think for themselves as well. Another is to promote discussion. Yes. So show them that you are interested to hear what they would like to say. So rather than being obsessed with getting the right answer, let it be, let them speak their minds. And then, because at the end of the discussion, when you facilitate the discussion, um, the right answers will come out. It's just that the thing here, you want to see the students link ideas with their existing knowledge. So wait time should be given. So that's why when you give instructions, for example, you're having group discussion, you have to reinforce instructions and tell them, all right, for this task, you will be given 10 minutes to discuss the answers to your group mates. After 10 minutes, you will be given 5 minutes talking time. So each member of the group should contribute ideas. Then it happens. Then during the 5 minute talking time, you listen, you show that you're interested with your body language, your facial expression. And if you feel that one student is struggling with finding out the right words, you can ask questions. Do you mean adaptive? Oh, do you mean generate? Do you mean, you can help them with providing some stem sentences or keywords, and that's okay. Because sometimes students do not have the vocabulary to express their thoughts, especially if they are speaking in a different language. Some of them are well versed in explaining in English, some of them are well versed in speaking Filipino. So those are some of the things that you can look at. Of course, it leads to feedback. Yes. So when we look into feedback, the question that you construct should also lead to feedback. It develops fuller understanding of an idea because they have tried to explain it themselves. That's what we're saying here. So instead of being more focused on arriving at the correct answer, we allow them to explore other areas. Maybe there are other right answers to the question. All right. So teacher will have a better idea on how the learners absorb the idea and the information. The good thing about this is you will have the privilege. I say this privilege. You will have the privilege to understand the thought process of the student, to look at how they think, how do they scaffold learning, how do they process the information that you provided in class. This is really fascinating, because from there you already have a solid foundation on where you can give feedback. All right, so for example, you can say, I like what you said, I like the first statement, but do you think that they understand? Instead of saying that she's wrong or he's wrong, you say that I agree with that. Or if you don't agree, you can simply say, I appreciate the statement, but do you think it would be a lot easier if then provide the other idea? Or you can say that that's an interesting view. What about then provide the other option? And then the student will think that, oh yeah, right. Do you get what I mean? So it's all about helping them arrive with the right answer, but not just giving away like candies, okay? So try to get better responses, elicit a high percentage of correct responses from students, and assist with incorrect responses. Again, of course, as much as possible, you want to get the right answers, but if not, it's all right as long as they're trying. All right. And then, because they are trying, assist them with the incorrect responses. Give them options. Don't just ask them a vague question and then where are they going to get the answer? All right. Try to give them the leeway. All right. Again, they are not like us. Okay. The way we learned before was different. We cannot teach them the way we learned before. All right. So probe students' responses and to have them clarify ideas, support a point of view, or extend their thinking, acknowledge correct responses, and you can use praise specifically and discriminately. All right. So try to don't just say, uh-huh, okay, no, fantastic, awesome, interesting answer, very good, nice, brilliant. Do you get what I mean? Don't just say very good. Okay, very good, very good, very good. Everyone is very good. And I don't understand. If I am a student, it's like, what is going on with my teacher? Like everyone is very good. So no, you have to vary your responses as well. So if the answer is not very good, stop saying very good. Then you just say, that's good. But we can, do you get that? All right. You can say that I agree with what you said. Oh, it's interesting, but let's have a look at this one. Do you get what I mean? You need to be a master of, how will I say that? You need to master this giving praises, responding to your students, because this short responses would fuel discussions, It will make the class more engaging. So as we were talking about responses, you can look into some of the stems for better question. Yeah. You may want to take a screenshot of this if you like. Okay. So what do you think? Look at that. You're not sure? The student is not sure. You can ask the following question. What is the same and what is the different about? Or you could say, how would you explain what is wrong with, or what does it tell you? What does it tell us about? Or how would you explain? How can we be sure? So try to vary the steps also. Or you can even say, you have an interesting idea, but how can you support that? Things like that. Can you help me understand what you're saying? Instead of saying, I don't understand what you say, you're not making any sense. Instead of saying that, we can say, oh, all right. That's something that I would like to understand better. So your tone of voice, the way you construct your sentence, your choice of words, they are significant to have an engaging classroom and to make your students feel that, okay, my teacher is there to guide me, not to judge me. All right. So we were talking about a while ago, stems for better questions, lead them to think critically, and this is what we're looking at now. we are looking into the connection of the higher order thinking skills. So I'm not going to discuss HOTS in details because I'm quite sure you are all familiar with HOTS, higher order thinking skills, because you are all teachers. So just a macro view on HOTS. So when we talk about HOTS, it's all about asking questions or creating our activities that would provide higher order thinking skills. And this is actually based on Bloom's revised taxonomy. So if you're familiar with Bloom's revised taxonomy, then you would understand HOTS. If you forgot it, let's revisit that quickly. Okay. So Bloom's revised taxonomy, this is a way of classifying instructional activities or questions as they progress in difficulty. So there are three overlapping domains. So that's why you notice most lesson plans you will have cognitive, psychomotor, and affective objectives, correct? So these domains are still useful today as we develop the critical thinking skills of students. All right. Now, the cognitive domain, this is the lower level in terms of the groupings, the cluster. Remembering, understanding, applying would go on the lower level of the cognitive domain. So when you ask students, what was our lesson yesterday? That is remembering, cognitive domain, right? But when you ask the students to create a sentence or to create something based on the topic that you provide, that is the highest level creation. All right. So analyze, evaluate, create. These are the higher level. The lower level requires less in the way of thinking, as notice, it's self-explanatory. As you move forward with the hierarchy, it requires more and more thinking. All right. So let's have a look. There you are. Hmm. I want you to have a look at the revised Bloom's taxonomy. I'm sure you've been exposed to this, but look into the type of activities that we provide and reflect on your classroom practice. Yep, take a look at this one. Look at that. When you ask them to define something, all right, what is the definition of this word? Da, 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 da. What is that? That is the lowest level, as you can see. All right. When they just simply remember something. All right. Oops, sorry. All right. Yep. There you are. So outlining task, understanding, application, analysis, evaluate, and create. Funny thing is, before in the previous Bloom's taxonomy, you will see that this evaluate is on top and create was on the second level of hierarchy. Now, with the movements in education, encouraging students to produce output to showcase the learning, then create is considered as the highest level of learning. All right. Imagination, using their imagination to invent, to create something, which I quite agree because it takes higher level of thinking skills for you to come up with something rather than memorize what's the capital city of this place. What is the meaning of this word? You get what I mean? Make sense? Yeah? Okay. Talking about creativity, creative thinking involves creating something new or original. It involves the skills, flexibility, originality, fluency, elaboration, modification, imagery, associative thinking, attribute listing, metaphorical thinking, and a lot more. So the aim is to stimulate curiosity and promote divergence. Now, I'm going to stop with this slide and go. We're not yet finished. Relax. We're not yet finished. What I'm going to do is I want to get some ideas from you. I want you to write in the chat box or in the comment box if you're on Facebook. I want you to type in there what is the most creative activity or things that you have done in the classroom. You as a teacher, what is something you consider that This is my most creative teaching strategy or approach. I want you to think about that. And then from there, we could have a little discussion or probably a collective discussion about creative thinking, all right, or creativity, promoting creativity in the classroom. So, can you do that for me? Type something in the chat box or in the comment box. The most creative teaching approach or practice that you have done in the classroom. All right. So think about that. What was that? Or maybe if you're lazy to think about that, just think about last year or last month or maybe last week. What's the most creative thing you have done in the classroom? All right. So let's see. Gonna stop this first. Yeah. Yep. So if you say yes, uh-huh, scavenger hunt, yeah, that sounds fun, Sarah May. Yep. Applying integration of subject in real life. Us, Wilmalin, learning activities through games. What type of game? Can you guys give a specific, a specific activity? Thank you. Role playing, collaborative approach. Thank you. Think, pair, share, carousel activity. That's fun. Think, pair, share. Yep. Clarence played the role. Oh, that's interesting. Clarence, so you had a simulation activity. Starbust, Marigold. Interesting. Guys, look at this. Look at the responses. Wow. Parody song. That sounds nice. Kahoot. Yeah, I love Kahoot. Uh-huh. Beautiful. Role playing, diagram making. What diagram, Cyril? Letting them create out of the lesson. Karen Silla. Um, was it challenging? How did you manage the time to create a story out of the lesson? I mean, that's good, but the question there is it could be time consuming, right? How did you do that? I'm curious. Form a group of four, yeah, beautiful. Picture story, amazing. Bouquet making, wow. Mark, Angelo, interesting. Letting them create their own nail designs. Annalisa, that sounds fancy. Creating their own recipe and procedure. Now I'm hungry. Dance therapy, puzzles, different activities, sequence of events, audio story, picture, clip story. All right. Bingo of emotions, Shini. Look at that. We're learning from each other. Guys, I hope you're taking down notes. Your fellow participants are providing you a lot of creative juices. Game show, talent show, Q&A for each group. Ah, that's nice, Jeffrey. Yeah. That's nice. It could be challenging. Like if one group asks you a more difficult question, I'm gonna revenge and I'm gonna ask you a more difficult one. I'm also reading from the Facebook comments. Transform a short story to script, putting scores on students' paper, tasting experience used to identify baking ingredients. Norida, that's amazing. Census, yes, good. Cabbage relay, that's so funny. Oh, charades. Oh, JV, that is something very new. Charade. I have never heard of that, huh? uh-huh, uh-huh. Again, huh? The most creative you have done recently. All right. So gamification, figures. Yes, in figures of speech. Thank you, JV. Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, look at you to create board games. Yeah. I hope everybody's taking down notes from the ideas of the others, okay? Management and doing actual selling, Zurita, that is amazing. I remember when I was teaching, because I also teach business courses in my marketing class, I asked them to go out of the classroom and pick up anything from the rubbish bin, garbage, garbage can, pick up anything from the rubbish bin and sell that to me. So could you imagine the disgust in their face? They're picking this was pre-COVID, okay? So they were picking up something from the garbage bin and they're coming to me in front of the class selling the product, because that's a marketing communication class. So yeah, I remember that because of the examples that you have here: business pitching business pitching with investors. Yes, there you are. Science clay volcano. Wow. Yep. Look at you. Thank you for that. Just keep the messages coming as I move forward. So we would agree that creative thinking plays a significant role in student engagement. And I'm confident, I'm sure that you guys, all of you who commented, all of you who type your answers there, I'm pretty sure that when you did these activities, you have seen an amazing level of engagement from your students, right? So, because you were able to stimulate their curiosity and at the same time promote divergence. Now, have a look at this one, guys. Mhm. You may want to take a screenshot of this. This is one of my favorite activities, yeah, that I do with my adult students. Yep. You can also try this with high school students, right? The Alien Travel Guide. Ooh, look at that. So this exercise encourages us to look deeper as we both individuals in the society, looking what we do with the value of fresh perspective. So to make it short, so it's like there's an alien and you are going to explain to them what is happening. And these aliens are asking you some questions. So take a look at this one. Scenario one and scenario two. All right. In scenario three, you will ask the students to create their own scenario, but not going away from the thought or the idea that they're speaking with aliens. All right. So I'll give you maybe 2 or 3 minutes to have a look at this material. Have a look. And then I want you to imagine, yeah, imagine yourself, um, or imagine your students doing this. Yeah, have a look first. This is an example. As I look into some of the comments, yeah, yeah, interesting. All right. So let's see. So, for example, look at this one. How do you think, one of the aliens is confused and turns to you for help? The alien asks you, what is a game? Why do humans play them? So, could you imagine the level of creativity that would go in here in terms of using language, in terms of um, using sentence structures, in terms of the content of the answer as well? So, yeah, what, how would you answer this question? Scenario number two, look at the first question. What is war? Why do humans wage it upon each other? So, if, for example, we're talking about relevance of the topic, let's say you're teaching social studies or history, you can relate that to what's happening with Israel and Palestine. Very sad, but this kind of question would start up a discussion. One of the when I had this discussion, some of the students surprisingly would say that no, because war is needed. Because some students say no, war is not necessary. And then when you look into their backgrounds, they would have different backgrounds and understanding what is war. So yeah, that could spark up a great sense of discussion and conversation in the classroom. All right. Interesting question. For example, look at this one. No? What are teams? Why is it important for humans to be part of teams? Yeah, nice. Right. So, yeah. I think I have another one. There. This one is shorter. All right. Put in your own creative word for each images. You can write some dialogue between the characters, write a single line caption, or turn image into a clever meme. All right. Keep it short and witty. All right. So from the photos, what can they come up with? All right. And that could be a source of discussion. So again, you can how will I say, tailor fit this, modify this based on your topics, based on your lesson. So What I'm saying is you can pick up some ideas in terms of using creativity and maximizing creativity. Yes. So, of course, we were able to cover critical thinking skills. So, yeah, we already mentioned that in critical thinking, it's important to focus on the following: the top three levels, the analysis, synthesis, evaluation in the Bloom's taxonomy. When we talk about revised Bloom's taxonomy, we're also looking at creation, right? So, critical thinking, we call that zero draft. You can use this as a critical thinking activity. So each student would draw two columns. They would put what they know about the column, what they know about the topic, and the second column, what they want to know. This is like a KWL chart. Yes. But the thing here, they move into small groups and then to the whole class for feedback. So they would have an inventory of prior knowledge and they bring it into the classroom. So this is quite fun with small groups and with, I would say, a bit of intermediate to advanced group of learners because we're dealing with prior knowledge. So unless you're introducing a new topic, then maybe you can rethink about using this one. So variety and novelty are also essential. We know this, that students get bored quickly if they are doing the same set of activity and the instruction is repetitive and low. So they won't be engaged. And, from what we've learned from the classroom management session, if they are not engaged, they are bored, the tendency is they will misbehave and it will create classroom management issues, right? So students, bear in mind that students usually rise to a challenge to do things in a way or learn new with interesting information, all right? One of the questions a while ago is that how should we make students value learning? So first, they need to value understanding. They need to understand. They need to be interested. A lot of research have shown that a stimulated mind, a mind that is interested, a mind that is motivated to learn, learns more compared to a conditioned mind that I'm going to come to school, I'm going to study this, and that's it, compared to a learner who has this level of engagement that I'm happy, I'm enjoying this, I'm going to learn, retention happens, all right? So try to constantly work on finding new ways to present material and engage students. Now, in this part, I'm going to go into the level of engagement in terms of school leadership view. So I think it's also important that this, you're working in schools, you have department heads, head teachers, master teachers, please do your job. This is the time to help teachers be more creative when it comes to present materials, all right, and students, all right, to enhance their level of engagement. So those teachers who are more seasoned, especially in the admin role, having the head teacher, master teacher position, or department heads or team coordinators, help your teachers come up with new ways in presenting new materials to their students, okay? Right. So, yep. Now, how do we look into the task that we provide? So, this is where you look into the metacognition cycle. So, reflection is always important, assess the task, what went well, what went wrong, evaluate the strengths, plan the approach or replan if necessary, and then apply. And the cycle of life goes on when it comes to understanding student engagement. Okay, we're about to finish soon. We will allot the few minutes for some questions because the first session we extended for like 10 minutes. So yeah, we're gonna keep going, right? Collaboration is also important when we talk about engagement. We mentioned a while ago in the beginning that when students are engaged, they tend to collaborate. They tend to give more, how will I say that, authority in making choices. What are the things that they want to discuss? What would what they think would be productive for them. And also, it's again important not to focus on the process of having the right answer, but rather focus on the process of learning to arrive with the right answer. So, there. So, some things that we can use, some tips that we can use to encourage or maximize rather collaborative learning. Number one, please provide clear instructions for group works and structure for the activity. What's your instructions? When you give instructions, talk about the time. How much time do they have? Talk about the specific task. What specific task and what outcome you would want to see. Talk about how are they going to do that. You will be working with groups and you will be doing this. And finally, talk about how are they going to present it if there is a need to present the activity. All right. So that is how you call clear instructions. So that there's not much space for questions other than clarificatory questions. All right. Rather than them asking what to do, teacher, what to do. But because your instruction is clear, they would just confirm that, teacher, do you mean that? Do you get what I mean? Okay. All right. Evelyn Mijares has a question. Should we not incorporate the observance of ethics as we encourage our students to be creative? Because they could create something that may be prove harmful to humanity. I think you're talking about on a bigger scale. We're talking about creativity in terms of classroom practices. But I agree with what you said. Observance of ethics. The ethics are actually set by the school, by the teacher. The standards being set to understand what is right and what is wrong. So if I may answer that. Of course, creativity, if it goes beyond the boundaries of right and wrong, or someone will be hurt, then that's not creative anymore. That is danger anymore. That is danger already. All right. So take a look at the next one. Assign high complexity learning tasks that are completed more easily in a group than alone. So if you are putting them in groups, make sure that the task is for group. It's not like a task for individual student and then you just want to make them in a group. So create more uh, based on the complexity of the task, you decide how are you going to group them. All right. And as much as possible, thank you, Evelyn. As much as possible, create heterogeneous student groups. So that's also important to give chance for everyone to shine during the activities. All right. So here is just a little picture about that. Sharing ideas, collaboration, discussion, brainstorming, interaction, and community. When we say sharing ideas and interactions, sometimes it happens that in a group, there's one or two students who are really dominant. They are trying to dominate their discussion. So as a teacher, what you need to do is to go around and make sure that everyone is participating. Now, what can you do when a student is trying to dominate the discussion? You can approach the student nicely and politely and say, hey, student A, would you like to ask student B? Or would you like them to share some ideas too? Thank you for that. So, that could work. So try your best to, how will I say that? Be present during the preparation time, not not uh not too interrupting, not interrupting much, but at the same time, you have the control on what's going on with the groups. Easier said than done. Yep. Okay, almost done. When we talk about engagement and collaboration, the relevance of activities is also an area that you need to consider. So make sure that the activities are relevant. Students need a personal connection to the material. I'm going to say something over here. When we talk about personal connection, be sensitive also. So sometimes there are topics or ideas that will deal about certain issues. So you can have a trigger warning if you need to. For example, all right, this story will talk about, there was this short story I discussed when I was teaching high school a long time ago. Um, The story is called Hills Like White Elephants. So I'm not sure if you know that. It's a classic American literature story, Hills Like White Elephants. And the story is quite, it's really good. It's a really good story, but it deals with abortion, the topic of abortion. And I was teaching high school students, all girls high school students. So I have to tell them that, all right, so if you feel not comfortable about this topic, please let me know, and I could provide you a different reading activity. And this topic will deal, okay, so some topics will deal about suicide, some topics will, you cannot, that's the reality, that the topics would go from different types of areas that for some students might be sensitive. Some articles will be about parents abandonment, and some of them would have abandonment issues. So it's important as a teacher, although you want some personal connection to the material, you also need to be sensitive, because especially younger students, they tend to be more emotionally connected to what are they reading or what they are hearing or presenting. So try to be more cautious. That's just an advice. All right. So in teaching and learning setting, relevance should draw and hold students' attention. So again, when we talk about relevance, what is happening at the moment? What are the areas that could be appealing for them and not offensive for most of the members of the class? So these are some of the things that you could also explore in terms of thinking about engaging activities, right? So you can have students describe personal connections to the material being presented. Like, okay, what do you feel about this? What do you think about this? Can you share some personal experience? And you can also share your personal experience as long as you're comfortable to share. If you feel that you're not comfortable to share that, that's all right. Sometimes teachers would say, okay, our topic is about embarrassing moments. Please share your embarrassing moments. Come on, it's embarrassing moment. Why would you ask students to share it? That's why it's called embarrassing. Things like that. Sometimes extra level of sensitivity is important. Although we're talking about them being personally connected, that there's still also a limitation. Mhm. Next is to introduce lesson with an engaging story and anecdote. So you can tie in the new material with student interest. So this is easy if you're in a language class, but if you are teaching a different class, let's say maths or science, you need to exert a little effort to look for a story or a connection or a news maybe, so you can introduce your ideas. So you can also let students choose topic of their own interest if there is a topic or unit related to the assignment. Okay. Um, Calasiao Educational Center, the teacher should be careful or sensitive with the topics you assign students. Exactly, that's what I've said, that they should be sensitive. They should issue trigger warning, because not all students are able to process that kind of level of emotions that they have. Yes. So and I'm going to end with this one. So engagement in class changes everything. Remember that when we engage, we empower, we enhance, we enable, and we engage, and then we keep moving forward. All right. So what I've shared with you today are just some of the practices that I have seen that work with most of the teachers I've collaborated with. Some little bit of research support, as you can see from the slides, and that coincides also when it comes to managing schools, to understand what kind of support teacher needs in terms of classroom management, student engagement, and understanding leadership, instructional leadership, and administrative leadership. So, yeah, thank you so much, everybody. We are now open for some questions and comments if you would like to. Thank you. So yeah, if you're shy to ask questions, you can email me. My email address is there. It's dr.rmaglaya@gmail.com. I also have a LinkedIn account. My name in LinkedIn is my name, Ramel Maglaya. So you can also send me a message over there if you have questions. Also, of course, you are very much welcome to give questions or to ask questions and give comments from our discussion in the past. Yes. All right. So thank you so much, everybody. We were able to cover a lot of interesting topics, but again, all of these are just icing on the cake. Your experience, your exposure to this environment will really make the difference. So, yesterday we talked about instructional leadership, administrative leadership, and supporting teachers. This morning, we talk about understanding the learners, providing a good classroom environment for them. And this last session, we talk about how do we engage students and how do we create a more engaging classroom environment. Thank you so much, Marisol. Very kind comment. Sarita, thank you for your kind comments. Yep. All right. So, yep. Any questions so far? Evelyn Mijares, thank you. June Ray Moreno, thank you. Yep. Thank you, Eduardo. Amariel, thank you so much. Very kind of you. I wish all the best for you guys. I can see a lot of young faces here. I know that some of you may be on their first, second year of teaching, and I'm telling you, do not give up, all right? Okay? But while you're still young, leave the Philippines. I'm kidding. All right. Okay. Anything else? Wilma Lynn. Really, Wilma Lynn. Oh my God. That was 7 years ago. You met me in Baguio. Yeah, that was 7 years ago. Thank you, Wilma Lynn. And I'm happy that you're here. Mhm. Shini, I like this question. How could we manage learners who move up the grade? They don't know the three R's. In yesterday's topic, we talk about support for learners. So I think this could be something the school that can do because they already move. So as a teacher, you can't do anything because they're already there on the next level. So this is more on the school support in terms of providing more guidance to the students because they already move. You can't do anything. You cannot put them back, right? So yeah, more guidance, I would say, from the teacher, from the advisors, and from the school itself, the support system. Thank you, Rodjin Malunis. All right. Ferda, thank you so much. Asnia, thank you. Yep. Any other questions or feedback? You can, yeah, ask here. You want to share something that happened to you relative to the discussion? Yes, you can do that. We still have about 5-10 minutes. Yeah. Mhm. So it's always fantastic to connect with Filipino teachers. Even though I've been living abroad for almost 8 years, again, this is my email address. Yeah, if you want a copy, that's my email address. Uh, yeah, even though I've been living abroad for 8 years, I always feel the need to connect with Filipino teachers because I really like to help you guys succeed. When I was a young teacher, when I was 23, I was 22 years old. I was starting the teaching profession. I wanted I want help, but I'm not getting the help that I want. Do you get what I mean? And I was thinking, when I get older, when I'm mature, I want to be that help. So yeah. Shini, how can we deal with the principal who has a limited instructions different on breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Shini, I love the question. Ooh, all right. How can we deal with this kind of principal with a lot of instructions? I think the best way to deal with this kind of leader in general, not just a principal, in leader is to, of course, it's important to talk to that person and talk about your working hours. Like, this is my working hours. I would try my best to accommodate all the responses and the questions. Um, but this is my working hours. So I will only accommodate as much as I could within my work hours. Thank you for understanding, something like that. Especially if how to apply abroad. I'm not a recruiter, but there are a lot of online websites that you can check on. So yeah, it depends on which country you would like to go. So yeah, look into that. Maida. Yeah, I'm afraid to. I don't want to give immigration advice. So, but yeah. For example, you want to teach in New Zealand, go to New Zealand Teaching Council website. They will provide all the requirements there, as well as in Australia. How to deal with principal with favoritism? We cannot do anything about his or her mind. We cannot change that. But what we can do is to show to that person being favored by the principal that you can do more, and that you can do uh, the specific task and responsibilities that you can, because that's quite subjective, let's see. Thank you, Michelle. Now, Livy Lil, good for you. Sorry, Eduardo. Eduardo asked, how can instructional leaders balance the need for consistency and standardized instruction with the demand for personalized, student-centered learning experiences? Interesting point, Eduardo. But when we look into personalized, student-centered learning, we're actually looking into experiential learning, what the students really need. And in terms of standardized instruction, I think standardized instruction has become, how will I say that? Has become a thing in the past recently, because the learning now is more hands on. So I think as long as the learning outcomes are met and students results, examination results, or student achievement has been met, and that should do the job. For example, here in Australia, we don't have this thing called standardized instruction. We are actually encouraged to be more creative when it comes to delivering the content of the lesson. So that makes us more, how will I say that? Makes it more in control when it comes to teaching, as long as the student outcome, the expected outcome is met, then that is accepted. So it depends actually also in where you at, in the type of environment that you are in. So thank you, Maida Antas. Thank you so much. Very kind of you. Uh, Shini, can you please share how is the treatment of teachers in the Australian Philippines? Well, I in Australia, teachers are treated very well. I would say they are well compensated, although there are a lot of tasks to be done. I'm talking about high school and elementary because I am in the university. I teach in the university in Australia. So for university lecturers like us, it's way different. For high school and elementary, they get all the support from the government. So that's one thing. And, you know, professional development here is provided. All professional development here provided. For example, you are a high school teacher or elementary teacher, you want to study masters, it's free. You want to study PhD, it's free. So yeah, so they do not spend their own money for professional development. That's one of the things I like about Australia. So yeah, I think also in New Zealand, because I also have some friends who are teaching in New Zealand. But then again, as I've said, I'm teaching in the university here in Australia. So in the university, it's different because we are more encouraged to do research. We are encouraged to participate in activities for higher education. Yeah. So we can go abroad. Yeah, you can go, guys. Come on. All right. Uh-huh. You have to explore your options. If you are planning to teach abroad, you have to explore your options and then go back to the Philippines once you feel that you're empowered and that you have a lot of things to share. So yeah. Explore options means avoid illegal recruiters. Okay, so go to the official websites of those countries or places that you really want to go, if ever you are keen. All right, but I'm not telling you to leave. All right, but if you want, you can. All right, Junri, thank you. Contas, Frida. Yeah, right. Yes. Okay. Thank you, Amariel. And again, don't hesitate to send me an email if you have questions about anything that I could be of help with. So yeah, I'm an email person, so I usually check my email every day. I check my email every day. So yep. Thank you so much. Yep, I think Oy Livey, you have to. Then don't go unless you're good at. You're so funny. Okay. So there you are. Thank you so much. Jan, are you there, Jan? John Angelo? Yep, I'm giving the floor to you. Thank you.
So before we formally end our international training on managing 21st century school, uh, let me first award the certificate of appreciation to Dr. Roman Maglaya as our resource speaker for his invaluable expertise shared with the participants during the 16-hour PRC accredited program titled International Training on Managing 21st Century Schools with PRC accreditation number PTR 2022-393-305146 CPD units on October 28 to 29, 2023 via Google Meet online. Given this 29th day of October 2023, signed Jane Annie Moronia, the facilitator, and Jan Angelo G. Murata, the training director.
Thank you, John. I just want to thank also EdTech Teacher Training Center for inviting me to facilitate this training. You know, this training has been a product of constant planning and consultation. So you are guys lucky to be here, not because I'm here, it's because of the organizers' initiative to organize this training. So thank you. Let's also thank John Angelo for organizing this activity and the EdTech Teacher Training Center. I hope that I could join you again next time. I think in the following months, we will be organizing something about research writing. So if you are keen about that, you can reach out the EdTech Teacher Training Center. Everyone here, thank you so much, teachers. And from the bottom of my heart, I wish you all success in your teaching career. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, Doc. So with that, well, that ends our training program for